When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there, good morning everybody, and welcome to Join Up Dots. I tell you what, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling inspired today because you won't hear these words said very often from my mouth, but I spent the morning walking on the beach. Yes, it's been so glorious in the United Kingdom over the last few days. I have sought out the outside world at times when I thought there was nobody else going to be there, but of course everybody else has that idea as well. So if you're sitting in an office at the moment and you're listening to this thinking there's 15 hours until I can get out, start changing your life, because believe me, there's beaches waiting for you, and when you can do it when everybody else is at work, it's so much sweeter. Well, let's introduce today's guest who's on the show, because he's a man who has had quite a ride to where he is now as an author, business owner, and on a mission to help the world shift their mindset to one of abundance. His early days were not as anyone would want for a child growing up, that's for sure. A survivor of a childhood riddled with domestic violence and alcoholism in the rural foothills of southern Virginia, he worked hard to throw off the mental chains that had covered him to become the millennial CEO and founder of executive consulting firm XL Global Partners and the fund managing principal of the EGP Family of Companies. Now, it's taken grit and persistence to get his award-winning firm XL Global Partners to the position where it's served multi-billion-dollar and mid-market clients in 20 states and in more than 16 countries across the world. But as we say, this wasn't just a case of someone deciding to do things in a different way and then magic occurring. He had to master his habits, routines and consciousness to train his mindset to shift from the poverty consciousness that he learned as a child to an abundance consciousness as an adult, and by doing so became a multi-millionaire. Today, he's having more fun than ever, living the life of a purposeful millionaire with global reach. But this is probably the bit that I love most about his story. Now, for almost a decade, he quietly grew his business and his own personal development before ever setting out to coach or motivate anyone else, which, believe me, in today's world of, hey, I've just quit my job and now I'm a coach, come work with me, rarely ever happens. His book, The Purposeful Millionaire, is a best-selling guidebook of 52 rules that teaches people about mastering the millionaire mindset and getting the most out of life, doing more, living more, and achieving more. So is it the traumas in life, like the near drowning incident while kayaking, the things that have taught him so much, or the everyday occurrences that most people just ignore as, well, living life? And where could he imagine being today if he hadn't started working on what was going on inside before ever trying to master the world outside? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots with the one and only Mr. James Nowlin. Good morning to you, James. How are you, mate?
Good morning, David. I'm doing fantastic.
I think you are. Number one, you are a young man. Number two, you're a multi-millionaire. It can't be any better than that, can it?
Well, I've been a millionaire for quite some time, but it took me a long time to really understand the power of being a millionaire and how to be happy in that process.
It's a strange thing, this, because I hear it so often where people have said to me that they were driven to achieve a certain amount of money, and then once they achieved that money, they felt a bit flat, like I should feel better about this. And then when the money went up, they actually found their happiness sort of diminishing. Did you find that, or were you just like, this is brilliant, I'm going to buy 9 cars?
Well, it happens to so many people, David, and I've got some friends who've got quite a bit of money, but they're not necessarily happy. And for me, I was able to have a wake-up call at a very early age. At the age of 31, I had a near death, or should I say a death accident, in which I came back and I was able to examine my life, figure out who I wanted to include in my life in terms of friends, business associates, colleagues, and even family. And I realized that it wasn't about the cars, it wasn't about the money, it wasn't about the houses or traveling around the world or having flashy friends. It was really about what was going inside with myself. And after my near-death accident, things really changed for me, and I began to live a much more purposeful life.
I remember, and I've mentioned this so many times on the show, but it really hit home with me. I was listening with an interview with Billy Joel many years ago, and the guy said to him, well, Billy, you've had 150 million album sales, you do Madison Square Garden every month, you've done, amazing. What has this success given you? And Billy Joel went, time. It's given me time. If I wake up and I don't fancy doing it, I don't have to. And that really sort of set out a message to me that it's not about how much your bank account is exploding. It's actually about the ability to do stuff with the time that money gives you.
That's exactly right, David. And today, at the age of 36, I've really learned that lesson. And fortunately for me, I've learned it at a relatively young age. It's all about having time and having options and enjoying life and having the liberty to pursue the things that I want to pursue. For example, on a day-to-day basis, I'm spending just as much time working on my book, working on things that I really love to do as I am on running my business. My book and my public speaking and the executive coaching and working with others to help them to live a more masterful, wonderful life. That's what really drives me. And, they have the saying, your why should make you cry. My why makes me cry. My moneymaker is Excel Global Partners, and we're a fantastic firm filled with wonderful employees who do really great work across the globe with fantastic subject matter experts. But at the end of the day, I get to live my purpose, and I would not be able to do so if not having achieved a certain level of financial success. I know that because of the work that I do on myself, the gratitude that I have for the blessings that the universe has given me, and my approach to life, that each day is going to get better. Now, before my near-death accident on August 25th, 2012, on a daily basis, in terms of happiness on a scale of 1 to 10, David, I was probably a 5 to 8. Now I'm living at a level of 8 to 10, and it's not necessarily because I'm in a stronger financial position. It's because I'm in a stronger mind, body, spirit position. And I had to do the work on myself and evaluate what I wanted out of life and how I could use money as a tool to increase my options and opportunities in life to pursue my destiny. That's when things really started to change.
Now, a lot of people are going to be sitting out there going, yeah, okay, I'd feel bloody happy if I had, millions in the bank. But is it as easy as saying that? Is it the fact that you can say this now because you've achieved, but maybe 5 years ago you wouldn't have been able to stand up in front of people, come onto a podcast and say those words? Do you have to actually live them and truly believe them before they become real?
It really took a disruption for me, David, and that disruption was when my body was recovered on a lake in East Texas from a drowning accident, and I spent some time getting my vocabulary back, getting my physical strength back, and really evaluating what I wanted out of life. If I had gone back, 5, 6, 7 years and had the same amount of money, I probably would have been a little bit more lost. And that's one of the reasons why we see so many celebrities and so many people who've succeeded at very high levels struggling getting through their days and attempting to make decisions that can help them to live fulfilled lives. They fill the void in their lives with addictions and afflictions and all kinds of things, but really the work begins on the inside. So for me, regardless of whether I have $1 million or $100 million or $1 billion, what really matters is doing the work on James so that James can be a better and more fulfilled person. I do know quite a few people who are struggling on their journeys, regardless of the amount of money that they have. And the thing about money, too, and success is that once you get it, you want more of it. No matter how conservatively you live or no matter how strong your investments are, you kind of want more of it. So I'm at a point in my life where I still have the interest and the urgency in achieving and in doing as much as I possibly can. But also I am balancing that career achievement and that career trajectory with the work that I'm doing on myself. And I can tell you the investment is so sweet because I am working on myself and looking at my vision board and saying, hey, in 2017, I'm going to accomplish X, Y, and Z. In 2018, I'm going to accomplish this, that, or the other. But in 2020, I'm going to have all these things accomplished. And it's really coming true now, David, that I'm doing the work on myself. I'm envisioning my future, and I'm taking deep breaths along the way. Not only that, but I'm experiencing the journey. And I'm sensing it and I'm feeling it. And I'm not just in a big rush to get from the beginning to the end. I'm enjoying every step of the way. And it's such a wonderful process to be in.
Well, what is it about the journeys that so excites you? Because most people, if you say to them, what will you do if you win the lottery? They will go, well, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm going to sit on a beach. I'm going to drink tequila. I'm just going to sort of relax and stuff. But you can hear it. You're driven on twofold. You're driven on growing the business, but growing the business in the right way that nourishes you instead of sort of takes it out of you. So what is the difference between you and somebody who, as I say, just wins the lottery and then sits on an island?
I believe that money that comes quickly often leaves quickly. And for me, because I've done the work in terms of self-mastery, meditating, doing yoga, reflecting, doing vision boards, working on myself, I am not one weekend or one vacation or one alcoholic beverage or one rock concert away from happiness. I have a consistent level of purposefulness and happiness on a daily basis. And I really feel that nothing could be better than that, David. It's not to say that I ignore some of the challenges that come my way or that every day is a perfect day. I'm a human being just like everybody else. But the bottom line is, it's about the journey and being able to sense and feel and walk through that journey and being awake on that journey and not just focusing on the destination. We have a lot of people across the world who are working their hardest just to reach the age of 60 or 65 or potentially 70 to retire to sit on a beach. I believe that my best days are ahead of me, and I quite frankly plan on working for the rest of my life to share my gift, to share my purpose and my message. And the writings in my book and my teachings regarding the Purposeful Millionaire, which is my book with 52 rules of creating a life of wealth and happiness now, to other people across the world. And I feel this sense of mission and purposefulness that is quite priceless, and it makes the journey oh so rich.
Right, okay, so let's sort of take you back to the young man, because this is the fascinating journey that you've been on for me, is the shift to one of abundance, because that is the big problem. If somebody has grown up, I grew up in the 70s, and I look back on it now and I can see that we didn't have a lot of money. So we always used to have a holiday or a vacation each year, but it was always in the United Kingdom. It was in some static caravan park. Great for the kids, and we ran around, we had a good time, but I look back on it and it was very, very poor. And it took me a long time to shift from that save mentality. If I got some money, I'd put it in the bank to save it instead of investing it back into myself. How did you actually transition from your starting to one where you can actually look around at a world of abundance?
It wasn't really something that was taught to me during my childhood, David. My father was a truck driver for United Parcel Service and a unionized worker, and my mother was a worker at the highest paying factory in the region. So we were working middle class people, and we had a very decent income. However, we had a poverty consciousness. And it wasn't until I left school at the age of 17 to attend the University of Virginia that I realized that we thought that success in my household was actually buying things and being noticed for the kind of car that we drove or the kind of clothes that we wore or the vacations that we went on or the kind of house that we lived in. For me, I started watching families and I understood that their value system was fundamentally different from mine. I saw students whose parents were investing in additional books, and I looked at the mannerisms and the value system and the ethic, and I realized, in my household, we might have had a little bit of money, but there was that poverty consciousness in which I was trapped. Now, I'm in the United States, and typically when somebody's born working class, they die working class, or if they're born middle class, they generally die middle class. Changing classes is very, very hard to do, and it's very rare. When I got to the University of Virginia, I set out on a mission to emulate the value system, the communication style, the mannerisms of those who I believed had achieved more than I had, and those who were on a trajectory of higher levels of success than that which I had been exposed to as a kid growing up in the southern foothills of Virginia. I watched these people. I emulated them. I started to use them as my muse to create the vision that I had for my life and where I wanted to go. Now, I did not know exactly what that looked like and ended up going to medical school for a year. And after that, I went to law school for 3 years and practiced law for a short amount of time before founding Excel Global Partners. But at the end of the day, David, I knew that in order to earn more, I had to learn more. And then and that also in order for my net worth to change, my network had to change. So I had to change the environment in which I found myself. I had to change the friends that I hung out with. I had to change a lot of things about myself in order to prepare for stratification. All these things came together because they were purposeful and part of the vision that I created for myself just by watching others and by reading books and learning as much as I could about how to change classes. One of the most important reads that I had was a book by Wallace Wattles, Wattles. It's a classic, and it's called The Science of Getting Rich. I read Wattles' work early when I was in college, and it profoundly changed the way that I looked at opportunity. It changed the way that I thought about myself. And it also changed the systems of beliefs that I had regarding politics, the economy, self-improvement, all these things. So it was a wonderful combination and culmination of thought processes that came to me that I worked on for 20 years between the age of 17 and now 36 years old. And, people say, well, James, you're so successful and you've done so many things. No, I'm a 20-year overnight success story, David. And it's taken a lot of work, it's taken a lot of vision, and it's taken a lot of strategy.
Well, I think the key thing that really jumped out of me there, and there were so many things I wanted to jump in on, was the fact that you pivoted. You had this idea in you that, if you mimic people, if you looked at how other people would operate, but twice you went into the wrong fields. Was there never a part of you that went, oh, look, I've started this, I should just finish it? Or did you just know that once you was into medicine, once you was into the first sort of route, they just didn't feel right? Because that's a big problem for people, isn't it? They feel like they've wasted time. They feel like they've wasted investment in themselves if they pivot halfway through a course.
I look back on my life and I realized that the pivoting and the flexibility that I possessed, as well as the vision that I had, were what really mattered. I look at some of the students and some of my friends from my childhood who even had more fortunate upbringings than I had, and they have not been able to achieve the levels of happiness or wealth that I've had. And I think that's because they did not pivot. I look at my experience in medical school, which was 1 year at the Howard University College of Medicine on a full ride scholarship. And, I grew up a working class kid from the southern foothills of Virginia, and I had achieved this $200,000 scholarship, and I was taken care of with regard to my tuition, my laptop computer, and everything in medical school, but it just did not feel right. Now, David, I could have been a doctor and I could have had a good salary for the rest of my life working as a physician, but it didn't feel right. And why,
James? Let me jump in there. Why did it not feel right?
I did not feel fulfilled. I felt as if I could have been a good doctor, but not a great doctor. When I was in the hospital, when I was in my medical school classes, I was somewhat going through the motions. I wasn't getting excited about being a physician. Now, today, some of the things that I do, I totally geek out about them. I find myself waking up early in the morning, excited about a lot of the work that I do, making as many phone calls as possible, just grinding it out, and it doesn't even seem like work. Becoming a physician seemed like work to me. And also, I dropped out of medical school to go to law school. Once I got into law school, it really seemed like work to me and did not seem like my calling. Again, my why was not making me cry. This combination of educational experiences in medical school as well as law school really were preparing me for my future. I didn't really think that anything, I don't take it for granted that I spent a year in medical school or that I spent the time in law school, because I'm a believer that things don't happen to me, they happen for me. That medical experience, backed with my law school experience, made me a better businessman. And some of my clients today have been hospital systems, and I can talk the language of physicians and heads of hospital systems. And I can also very thoroughly protect my firm and review contracts in preparation for client opportunities for us. And it shields my firm from some of the liabilities that other companies have because they don't have a CEO with that kind of experience. So all of these things were preparing me, David, for what was a higher calling for me, and that is to serve as the CEO of Excel Global Partners, which would eventually lead to preparing me to write the book, The Purposeful Millionaire.
And we're going to talk about that in a moment. But I agree with what you're saying totally. And I really want the listeners to understand that everything that you've lived through is just experience ready to put you into a position. Now, I'm doing a job now which I feel in my heart of hearts is absolutely absolutely perfect for me. But I wouldn't have been able to do this without maybe 20 years of what I was doing previously. It leads up to a certain point. So if you are in a job and you feel like it's dead end, whatever, don't beat yourself up about it. Just look for the gifts in there, something that maybe you didn't know previously, and learn it as well as you can, and then transition. But keep those skills, keep those things. When I became a podcaster, I ran away from what I was doing previously. That I used to stand up and do training courses for people. And now I realise I was a stupid person to run away from that, because I had those skills built up for many, many years. I should use those at the same time. And that's the problem, James, isn't it? People think to themselves, they're in a job, there's nothing good in here, but in fact, there's good all the way around them. They've just got to take the good into the next step.
You know, that's exactly right, David. And I remember, being at a law firm and being in law school and also being in medical school and doing daily meditations. And I would read these books about how to love your career and how to make the most of the opportunities that you've been blessed with. And I realized that even though I was doing those things, I was still lacking that sense of fulfillment. Yeah. And it has to be in your heart. It's got to be in your mind. And it's got to come together completely in order for you to really enjoy something and to become a true master of it. Me becoming a master of anything in medicine or anything in the practice of law would have been sheer agony for me. It would have been nails against a chalkboard, just grinding it out every single day. And my spiritual well-being and my health, my physical health, my mental well-being would not be what it is today if I were still doing that. So, you can listen to a lot of advice from a lot of people, but really it boils down to doing the work on yourself and realizing that it's got to be in your gut, it's got to be in your heart, it's got to be in your mind what your calling is on this universe to do. And if you don't follow that, you end up living a life where when you're 90 years old on your deathbed saying, I'm full of regrets. I wish I had had the courage to do X, Y, or Z. Now, over the years, what I've been blessed with is what I call the courage muscle. My courage muscle is so much stronger now in 2017 than it's ever been before. And that's because I'm taking bigger risks. I'm stepping out in faith more. I'm following my destiny more. And I'm not listening to the naysayers and the detractors as much as I did as a kid or somebody rising up in his 20s. Having gone through several career disruptions and life disruptions, I know when, how, and where to follow my gut, my heart, and my mind to live my life, because we only get one life, David. And, today, with so many things going on, my days seem really, really long, but my years seem really, really short. Time is flying. And before I know it, I'll be 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and this life will be over. So I'm going to do as much as I can while I can, living my purpose and living my destiny, because for me, I believe that the greatest way to say thank you to the universe is to live your purpose.
Oh, I agree with that, and I agree with the time whizzing through. This year has gone through quicker than any year I can possibly imagine. I can't believe we're coming up into July, and my wife is already talking about planning for Christmas. I've only just had Christmas, and we're moving on. But let's listen to some motivational words, and then we're going to, of course, talk about the 52 rules to success. Rocky.
You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Now, when I first heard those words, James, I thought, oh, they're good, they're motivational. But actually, I've lived through those 2 or 3 times. I've had several stages of burnout. I've had several stages of thinking that everything was going to crumble around me. But I'm still here and I'm still moving forward with the passion of it. Looking over your life, obviously, do you need those big whammies, those big punches in the face to really succeed, or can you just dodge them? Are the people that get hit stronger because of it, or is it just a nice quote that Rocky said?
Over time, with experience, you gain resilience. With experience, I can avoid some of the punches because I know it's coming, and I've got the experience to understand what a situation looks like and how to navigate through that situation. But really, for me, it's about what I do on a daily basis, and that creates a great sustainability for my strength, my willpower. I'm not going at it balls to the wall on a daily basis. I have a sustainability ritual that I do on a daily basis. When I wake up, I do the same thing. I've got the same schedule, whether I'm traveling to the United Kingdom or whether I'm traveling to California or Australia. I've got the same rituals that really give me the foundation and the basis for achieving a life of great success, because that helps me to deal with the blows and the punches that come my way and to remain sustainable. They really anchor me. David, whether it's the meditational exercises, whether it's the fact that when I wake up in the morning, I make my bed and I chant my gratitude chant to the universe, which is thank you, thank you, thank you, which I believe awakens and opens the ears of the universe to hear, James Nowlin has woken up and he's ready to rock this universe and to contribute today. So it's all these things that we do as time goes on to navigate the challenges of life. Am I navigating those challenges better? Heck yeah, I am. Am I creating sustainability rituals that help me to deal with some of those challenges more? You darn right I am. And I'm looking forward to the person that I'll be at 40 and the person that I'll be at 50, because I'm learning so much on a daily basis, and I'm applying so many things and rituals on a daily basis in order to be the best person that I can, and in order to have this life of great success. Now, I'll finish with this question with this, David. It's not about what you do from time to time. It's what you do consistently that matters. So many people get into these things where, I went to the gym, James, for 2 hours and I just busted it out. And I'm thinking, well, you go to the gym once or twice a month. I've got a 20-minute exercise routine that I do every single day, and it creates great health and physical fitness and mental clarity for me on a daily basis. So all these little things that we do, they can become less and less complicated if we're willing to take the first step and if we're willing to be consistent. That's how I navigate the punches, David. It's by keeping to my rituals, my sustainability habits, because I know that a perfect world does not await me. But what I do know is that I can bring the experience, my daily rituals, my habits to task so that I can navigate those waters much more successfully.
Let's talk about your book now, The Purposeful Millionaire, because there must be a million of these books out there, and they all have their 50-step process, whatever. What makes your book different? The 52 rules. Why, for example, 52 when 50 would have been a nice round number, for example?
Well, with 52 rules, David, we've got one rule for each week of the year. The other thing is that my book is not a theory. It's something that I've actually lived. A lot of people write a book to be successful. I was successful before I wrote a book. So this is not theory. These are practical rules and applications that I've put into play in my life that actually work.
I agree with that totally, and I want to really re-emphasize that. A lot of people write books to be successful. Now, that's a real bugbear of mine, and that's why I said in the introduction that you spent a decade growing your business before you actually started to coach or motivate anyone else, because people now think there is a fast track, don't they? They do a book, they do a TEDx talk, and then they're suddenly rocking and rolling. I think you've got to have the grind. I think you've got to have the persistence to really have lived it before you can put anything down in paper, don't you?
That's exactly right. And I think that there's more value from a writing or a teaching from someone who's actually experienced it. I've experienced it. I've had ups and downs. The book is a reflection of the challenges that I've overcome. It is a humbling manifesto with me sharing very personal things about myself in order to let other people know, you're not alone in overcoming some of these obstacles. I talk about my childhood. I talk about some of the business challenges that I've had. I talk about some of the spiritual and mental challenges that I've had. And I think you get a much more meaningful product at the end of the day when that realness and that rawness is brought to the table as an author.
Right, okay, so let's talk about the rules then. And we got you on the show because I love the thought of abundance. That's one of the things that really sort of winds me up. It annoys me, James, where people think that they've got to get it out today because they've missed the boat. And I keep on saying to them, you might have missed that boat, but there's another boat coming along. Just do it at your own pace, do it right, and bring your product or your service or whatever to the world at the right time. How do people transition using your book to that mindset of abundance? But there is 7.8 billion people out there. There is so much opportunity. They don't have to kill themselves overnight.
That's right. It's all about chipping away at your dream, and eventually you'll have a beautiful, beautiful sculpture. And for the book, I understand that there are 52 rules. My hope is that the people who read it will pick up 1, 2, 5, maybe 10 rules that they can start to apply to their lives and begin to transform their lives by consistently putting those rules into practice. For me, I do live by the 52 rules of the book, but I understand that I'm not going to get overwhelmed. And that begins with looking at what I call the success formula, which is laid out in the introduction of the book. And that is idea plus plan plus execution equals success. I'll repeat that, David. It's idea plus plan plus execution equals success. This is the success formula that I've applied to every single thing that I do in life. And I tell people, you should not spend too much time on the idea because ideas are a dime a dozen. There are trillions of ideas in the universe, and I'll probably have 1,000 ideas that pop into my mind today, but I most likely will not end up executing on them. So I remind people, just spend about 1% of your time talking about the idea, whether it's someone who is at the Thanksgiving dinner table or somebody in your office or somebody who's a friend of yours. There are people who get trapped in the idea phase talking about nothing but ideas, but they don't actually implement those ideas or bring it to fruition. Now, once we move from the idea phase, which is where we spend about 1% of our time, we move on to the plan phase. And in the planning phase, we really work on analyzing what's going to work, what's not going to work, listing out pros and cons, figuring out if I begin to execute this thing, what is it going to look like, and what's the strategy that I've got to stick to. I remind people just to spend about 10% of your time on the planning phase, get into the execution phase, and start actually working on things where you should spend about 90% of your time. Now, in the execution phase, a lot of people will go home and say, you know what, James, this was too hard. I'm going to go back and change the idea. Don't do that. Go back to your planning, work on that a little bit more, because in execution, that's where the rubber hits the road. Your faults are displayed, your weaknesses are displayed, opportunities come to light. All these things happen in the execution phase. But what happens a lot of the time, David, is that people on a general basis get stuck in either the idea phase or the plan phase, and they spend so much less time in the execution phase than they should because executing is hard. It's really, really hard. And my life is a reflection of execution on a daily basis, 7 days a week, doing the work, chipping away little by little at my dreams in order to achieve them. And I will tell you, David, that as someone who is the author of The Purposeful Millionaire and who has succeeded financially and spiritually by anyone's measure, I believe, I have never had a huge payday. I've never had any big thing plopped into my lap. It's been always about chipping away at things and receiving one little check after another little check, which grew to a medium-sized check. But I haven't won the lottery. I haven't had a huge inheritance. I haven't had a huge windfall of anything in my life, including gigantic corporate accounts. That might be coming one day, and I'm preparing for that. But all of my success, David, has been small wins and small good decisions that led to bigger and better opportunities throughout the trajectory of my career and my personal life. It has not been one in which big things have happened after big things happening. I'm preparing for that, but I encourage people to not get discouraged when they're executing because these little things do add up. There is a snowball effect which can make them millionaires and which can also make them very happy and successful people.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it is, it's hard, James. I know it's hard when you're putting your effort, your time, your investment into it, and some things seem to work really well, and you think, oh, I've hit the magic ingredient, and then other things don't. It's difficult, isn't it, to keep on just going with it when you're not seeing the rewards, even though we're all happy to use the analogy of planting the seeds in the garden and watering them until they grow into something. When it's business, it kind of seems different somehow.
That's exactly right. And I'll be totally honest, David. Right now, I'm going through a huge investment phase in my business in order to prepare for the next generation of Excel Global Partners and some of the holding companies that we have underneath it. I have not taken a salary in quite some time, and I've also invested my personal cash into the business. It's all about planting these seeds, and I'm planting seeds right now that will start blossoming. Just start blossoming, not being ready for harvest, but will start blossoming a year to 3 years down the road. And that's how this thing works. Nothing is quick. It is very, very hard. And I would encourage entrepreneurs out there to get ready to get your ass kicked not only will you face the scrutiny of friends and family and business colleagues and, your board of directors or board of advisors or whatever, but you're going to face the self-doubt and the fear that comes along the way when you realize, oh, things are not coming to fruition as quickly as I thought they would.
And also, I would say, big bit of advice to the listeners out there, when you start any business and you've got to invest in that business, and it might be on marketing, it might be on a coach, it might be on website design, go for as much as you can possibly afford. Because in the long run, you will spend more money chipping away at silly things where you think, oh, I just go cheap, I try and do it myself. Just try and get it done properly by investing the right way. Do you think, James?
I totally agree. And if I could go back 10 years and tell my younger self anything, it would be that you can't do everything, James. Hire people. There's a certain amount of comfort in knowing that, when a check comes in, you can pay your car bill or your house mortgage or that kind of thing. And that's important. But had I surrounded myself by more subject matter experts who could have assisted me, I would have gotten my quality of life back. I might not have had as much money initially, but there is value in people who are good at what they do. And a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, we tend to be cheap. We tend to think that we can do it all. We'll go on YouTube and do certain exercises or watch certain videos and think that we can actually do everything on our own. But the reality is you need people around you to assist you on the journey. And in particular, if I could do it over again, David, I would have gotten a coach, a really good executive coach to help guide me. Because as someone who is talented and who is recognized as gifted as many of the entrepreneurs are out there, I was recognized as a gifted kid in school and had the advanced classes and all that stuff. We think that we can do it all. But had somebody just yanked me by the arm and grabbed me by the side and said, you really need a coach. You're burning yourself out. Your strategy is good, but it is not great. My business would be so much farther along. And on top of that, I probably would have enjoyed the journey a little bit more. I would have gotten a lot more weekends back. I would have gotten time with family back. And my initial banking account might not have been as high, but that time is so valuable. And I just encourage all the entrepreneurs out there to not be cheap. And when you get out of your comfort zone, whether it's finances or with strategy or any of that stuff, you know that you're doing the right thing. If you're getting resistance from the universe, if you're looking at your finances saying, wow, how am I going to make this happen? I think that you're doing the right thing when that's happening.
Yeah, I agree. But of course, I've lived through it. And actually, I'll be totally open with everyone on this. I had my last burnout in November. And the clues were leading me up the path, but I couldn't see it. And I just kept on plowing into it until my health gave up. And you won't hear it on Join Up Dots. I was still doing the episodes, doing them as good as I possibly could, but I was literally falling to pieces. And I will never go back there, James. I will never go back there. And now if the work isn't getting done, then it's not getting done, or I'm getting somebody else to do it for me. I'm never going to go back to there. So it's a kind of double-edged sword. It was a terrible time, but I look back on it now and I think, thank God, that's really given me focus and clarity to move forward.
Absolutely. So those are some of the lessons that we learned, David, from a physical health perspective as well as a mental health perspective. The rates of suicide among entrepreneurs and alcoholism and drug abuse among entrepreneurs is too high. We are a special breed of people. We inflict a lot of pain on ourselves and wanting to get things done right, wanting to make massive sums of money, wanting to make businesses succeed. But also there's a loneliness that exists in this space of being an entrepreneur that a lot of our friends just can't understand. We're putting ourselves out there in the universe. We're taking huge risks. And a lot of the time, those risks come at the cost of our physical health as well as our mental health. So what I'm doing now, David, is I'm taking more walks. I'm breathing more deeply. And I talk about some breathing exercises that I do in the book. And I'm doing more yoga, and I'm drinking more water, and I'm having more protein shakes, and I'm doing certain health habits that at the end of the day might take time away from the business, but they are helping my sustainability in being CEO and successful author and public speaker and all these other things. I'm investing in myself as well as investing in the business. And where entrepreneurs get it wrong is that they end up investing in the business, giving their health, both mental and physical, to the business, but not taking care of themselves. And we've got to stop that.
Well, let's play some words now from a man who really did go through the journey, even ending up basically sitting in a corner of a dark room for 6 weeks because it all got on top of him. Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Have you lived your life by those words, James?
I believe I have, David, particularly after my accident back in 2012. After 2012, when I was recovering and getting myself back in order, I did a lot of reflecting and examining. And also, I had gone to a place of nirvana when I was transitioning from this earth to another place. And that's an experience that I'll never forget. And it empowered me to live a lot more fearlessly and to have a lot more courage and to be much more authentic to myself. Now, David, it wasn't easy because having experienced that transition and moving to a nirvana-like place, I started to take antidepressants. I took Wellbutrin and then I took Prozac. And I realized that those antidepressants were not working for me and that I needed to have more faith in the future. I needed to find my purpose. I needed to stop thinking and stop looking backwards and having regrets, but really start focusing on the work that I needed to do internally in order to make my life the success that I want it to be. So I have been through that struggle. It has humbled me from having a near-death experience to being on antidepressants and looking in the mirror saying, what the hell am I doing? To actually living the life of my dreams a couple of years later to where I am today. And all of these things happen for a reason, to make me a better, wiser, stronger business person and somebody who could help empower others around the globe with his message of authenticity. It has not been easy, but I have a great faith in the future about where this universe will take me if I simply stick to my vision, do the work, don't beat the hell out of myself in the process, and just keep moving forward.
Great stuff. And for the listeners out there, just before we send you back on the Sermon on the Mic to have a one-on-one with your younger self, what tips can you give them to start getting into that mindset of abundance, which is so powerful for us, not just as entrepreneurs, but just generally in life?
Well, I call it grit, and that's GRIT, get ready, it's tough. It's tougher than anything that you've ever imagined. And, throughout this process, you've got to have a lot of support systems. The biggest support system starts with yourself and understanding that this universe is ready for you. It's ready for your awesomeness, your ideas, your execution on those ideas, and for your vision and for your product or service to be shared with the world. I tell people to look in the mirror. That is your greatest competition. It's not your childhood. It's not your parents. It's not your spouse. It's not your neighbors. It's not your coworkers. It's your psyche, your subconscious telling you you're not good enough, you're not enough, or you can't be this or you can't be that. Do the daily rituals and exercises that we talk about in the Purposeful Millionaire to get your mind into that place of confidence and achievement so that you can do more, be more, live more, and achieve more than you ever imagined, because you are your greatest competition. If you can overcome yourself, you can achieve anything you want to in your business.
Well, this is the part that we call the Sermon on the Mic, when we're going to send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time and speak to the young James, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, we're going to find out, because I'm going to play the theme, and when it fades, you're up. This is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
I am 17 years old and looking back at myself and telling myself to not worry about competing. I'm telling myself to be unique. And one of the things that so many people do at that early age is to think that the world's a place of competition. No, the world's a place of opportunity, and the world is waiting on you to be your best possible self, to live your mission, to be a purposeful person who is fulfilling his destiny on a daily basis. There is no greater place for you to be than to live your destiny and to give your gifts to the universe. Shifting from certain consciousnesses take effort, and it takes so much out of a person. But by doing so, by getting from one way of thinking to a much more positive place of thinking, you're empowering yourself. So for me and my 17-year-old self, I am telling myself to don't compete, be unique, bring your truest, most authentic, powerful self to the universe, and the universe will rise up to meet you. Do the work. Don't get stuck in the idea. Don't get stuck in the planning phase of analysis paralysis. Do the work. Keep chipping away at your joy, and the universe will reward you, not only with happiness, but also with riches.
Great stuff. Powerful stuff there. So, James, what's the number one best way that our audience can connect with you, sir?
The number one best way for the audience to connect with me is to go to www.purposefulmillionaire.me, as in me, myself, and I, or to go to www.jamesnowlin, that's NOWLIN.com, and sign up for our weekly emails, which are very inspiring and encouraging, which are free of charge, and they will give you little tidbits about your practice of the 52 rules of creating a life of wealth and happiness. And also we'll be sending out quotations, exercises, things to keep you uplifted on your journey, because if anybody knows that it's tough, it is me. So go ahead and sign up at www.purposefulmillionaire.me. And you can also find my book on jamesonamazon.com. That is jamesonamazon.com. The title again is The Purposeful Millionaire, 52 Rules for Creating a Life of Wealth and Happiness Now.
We will have all the links on the show notes. James, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our past is the best way to build our futures. Mr. James Nowlin, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David.
Now, that wasn't one of those kind of woo-woo episodes. Yes, James was talking about the universe. He was talking about gratitude. He was talking about all those kind of things that a lot of people will sort of push against. But what he's talking about is grit and persistence built up with gratitude. So instead of waking up each morning and going, oh God, I really worked hard yesterday, nothing really was achieved, you wake up and you go, look, I'm grateful that I put that work in yesterday, because something will happen from it. And it really does. I can't emphasize it enough that nothing happens overnight. No matter what people show you on Facebook, it's not true. People aren't achieving global success instantly. It's about growing your profile, growing your business, growing your knowledge, and growing your own self-development. That's how it's done. There's no fast track, but by having a mindset that says, yeah, okay, let's go again. Let's make this a good day. You're going to win. You are going to win. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Join Up Dots on abundance and mindset, and we will see you again very soon. Thanks very much. See ya. Bye-bye.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.